Hello, Shoyan here. Today, I'm wrapping up the interior joinery work for this house. I'm working on the entrance storage space, the display shelf, the handrail, and the partition wall. Today, I'm focusing on the entrance. Entrances used to be much bigger in older houses, but they've gotten smaller over time. On the other hand, modern entrances now come with built-in storage, which is a great feature since you can fit things neatly inside. The front section will be meant for shoe storage, but I wonder if people will really have that many shoes to store here. This time, there will be no lockers or separate compartments. Instead, adjustable shelves for shoes will be installed at the front later. I start by working on the front wall and building outward. When you secure cedar planks to a wall, the staples go through the furring strips. In cases like this, I always place a spacer behind the furring strips to protect the airtight membrane from tearing. The front of the shoe storage cabinet will be finished with planks. Plaster or diatomaceous earth is often used for this, but these materials tend to get scuffed or dirty if your shoes bump into them. That's why we've made sure to use cedar planks instead. Even with a partition wall, the shoe storage cabinet is still visible from the entrance. Cedar planks add a nice accent, which is another reason we chose them. I'm using laminated cedar for the frame for the shoe shelving. The side panels are 20 millimeters thick and 330 millimeters wide. I'm using a 30 millimeter thick panel for the center divider. I'm placing a 30 millimeter thick laminated board in the center of the cabinet, dividing the 1800 millimeter width in half. Even if the two storage areas have the same number of shelves, this setup makes the shelves much stronger. Shelves that are only 900 millimeters wide are a lot sturdier than 1800 millimeter wide shelves. The shelves are 300 millimeters deep, providing plenty of space. Now, the frame for the shoe shelving is complete. Later, the cabinet maker installs the rail and adjustable shelves here. Next is the partition wall that separates the entrance from the room. I haven't finished this yet. This isn't a full height wall that reaches the ceiling. Instead, it's only about 1900 millimeters tall with a top trim similar to a head jamb, leaving an open space above. Now I install the top trim. The wood I'm using is the same type used for head jambs, and I'm installing it at the typical height. Whether you're working on a top trim or head jamb, there's a general rule you need to follow for wood placement. If it's above your head or eye level, the box side should face down. If it's below eye level, like a threshold, the box side should face up. Since wood that's placed above eye level isn't usually seen from above, I install it with the box side facing downward, just like typical head jambs. One side of the partition wall connects to an exposed pillar, while the other side connects to the wall. So I join the top trim to the pillar's notch using a wedge from the other side. This style, where the wall is built between an exposed pillar and a wall and fits into the inner side of the top trim or head jamb, is called shinkabe in Japanese. In contrast, when the wall covers the columns, it's called okabe. I'm going to install a display shelf on the entryway side of the partition wall. In the middle of it, I'll install an octagonal handrail made from the same wood. First, I temporarily install the display shelf. Next, I determine the correct position for the handrail. Since the 90 cm wide door to the living room is at the front, positioning it correctly is tricky. I align it directly above the entrance kamachi. At that position, I cut the end of the display shelf slightly so that 1/3 of the handrail aligns there. I use one side of the octagon of a cut piece of the handrail to guide the angle to cut. First, I'll install the shelf and then I'll work on the handrail joint. The shelf has a 200 mm overhang and the shelf board has also been made to that size. Since the back will be sandwiched between furring strips, making the overhang shorter, I added an extra 25 to 27 mm thick piece of timber to the back. Then, I installed the handrail. The top and bottom joints are simple butt joints. All that's needed is a clean cut and a snug fit. At the joint where the shelf and handrail meet, I notch only the handrail, leaving the shelf intact. The goal is to ensure the octagonal edge fits perfectly against the shelf. Both the shelf and handrail are made from ash. Ash is quite hard, but it's easier than Zelkova to cut with saws and chisels, making for clean joints. It's a great wood to work with. To secure the handrail, I apply glue and screw it in from underneath the shelf. Since the wall panels aren't installed yet, I use clamps to hold it in place and drive the screws in from behind. I secure the handrail with screws at the top and bottom, hiding the top holes with wooden plugs since the top is visible from below. I fill the bottom holes with kokuso, a mix of sawdust and wood glue. I'm making kokuso to hide the screw holes at the bottom. I mix sawdust from the same wood I'm using for the handrail with glue and fill the holes. The traditional way to make kokuso is to hand plane the end of the same piece of wood, carefully turn the shavings into powder, and mix it with wood glue. But that takes a lot of time. Instead, I just mix sawdust with glue and build it up. Once it dries, I'll chisel it flush. Now, I install the wall panels. Next is the partition wall separating the storage space from the entrance. It's mostly open with a wall in the middle and arched openings on both sides for passage. The frame is 45 mm by 60 mm, a size commonly used for joists or rafters. I'll attach the wall panel called M-cloth directly to it. First, I measure the passage openings and the width of the central partition. Then, I'll cut the M-cloth directly to form an arch shape. I first cut it to the right size, attach the M-cloth, and mark the width of the passage on it. Then, I draw circles on the M-cloth panel, stack 2 M-cloth pieces for both sides of the wall, and cut them together. Jigsaws are very useful for this kind of work. I can't imagine doing this job without one. A keyhole saw or coping saw just wouldn't be practical. A jigsaw is perfect for this type of job. That said, jigsaws tend to deviate slightly, making it tricky to cut smooth curves. I use a rasp made from a bunch of hacksaw blades to clean up the edges. I just gave it a try, and it smoothed out the arch surprisingly well. Now, I install the M-cloth panels for the arched section. Then, I add some frames where needed for reinforcement. I'm using flexible plywood for the curved section. It's made of veneer layers with the grain running in the same direction, except for the core layer, which runs perpendicular to the outer layers. I cut it to the right width. I bend the plywood like this. In this case, it needs to be flush with the walls on both sides while maintaining a smooth curve. To get a precise fit, I notch the wall panel slightly, which is a bit of extra work. The upside of this method is that one side will stop at the end naturally. By attaching a wooden support on the other side and screwing it in from below, I ensure the arch stays firmly in place. For extra reinforcement, I apply a little glue along the edges. It's probably unnecessary, but it can give you some peace of mind knowing the joint won't separate. After firmly securing it, I don't think it'll sag or shift because the arch is sharply curved. Finally, now that the kokuso has dried, I chisel it off for a clean finish. The entrance and storage area are now complete. The arched opening in the partition adds a nice touch to the entrance. This wraps up all the interior joinery work. All that's left is finishing the exterior deck, and then this project will be done. That's all for today. Thanks for watching.